The city of Lagos has always provided artists the opportunity to shine. And so you find that any artist who want to shine, who want to ascend, comes to Lagos to ask for the endorsement of Lagosians.
From its very beginnings, Lagos has always been the enabling environment for everyone who strives for excellence in any field of human endeavor. This defining character of Lagos is especially obvious in music, fashion, and the arts. The recent blossoming of musical talents among the Nigerian youth is a telling evidence of Benson Idonije's claim that Lagos is the mecca of all ambitious musicians, be they from the west, the east, or northern parts of the country. And this tradition didn't just start yesterday. There is a long history and a heritage, a noble story of men and women who led the way and built a path for today's champions. By the beginning of the 20th century, Lagos was a mixture of all sorts of people. Local Yoruba men and women, returnee slaves from the New World, and sojourners from different parts of the emerging country, Nigeria. At the turn of that century, Lagos had become a beneficiary of a heritage of musical influences. Borrowing from these influences, Lagos gradually developed what came to be known as palm wine music, or toy.
Toy is like when three friends sit in a corner, drinking from gourds of palm wine, singing fun songs as the spirit moves us.
Toy music originated in the Olowogowo area of Lagos in the 1920s in a motor mechanic workshop where boys in the neighborhood used to gather to drink and make music. Tunde King was the leader of this group and is thought to be the very first professional musician in the history of Lagos.
From the 1930s, this man walked through the streets of Lagos playing his guitar and singing. Although he was singing praise songs, well, the melodies were fantastic. Juju started from an instrument called the tambourine. Tambourine was so important that when the music was on, the tambourine player would throw the music instrument up and catch it again. That was how the music got its name. Ju means throw and throw. So that's Juju. That's how Juju music started. And then he was followed by the likes of Akombi Ege, the likes of Ambrose Campbell, Tunde Harbor Giant, Theophilus Iwalokun, and Yide Bakre, the man who led the band called the Inner Circle Orchestra. And then you had people like J.O. Oyeshiku, you had J.O. Araba, and then Ike Dairo. Well, we also had people like Fatai Rolling Dollar. And still alive, you still have people like Sonny Ade and Ebenezer Obey who are crusading the Juju music culture.
Both of us, we are helping promote Juju music in different ways and manners and dimensions.
Sakara, like Akbala and Fuji music, was derived principally from traditional Yoruba musical idioms, but were also significantly affected by Islamic influences.
Sakara is a pioneer music form. It all started with Adamu, who came here from Ilorin. He used to play the hand cymbals as accompaniment. Sakara cannot forget its depth to Hausa land. The Goje and Molo instruments came out of there. The flute came out of Yoruba land. Here.
Fuji music is the proud inheritor of Sakara, Were, and Akbala music traditions. Under the impetus of Sikiru Ayinde Barrister and others like Kolinton Ayinla, Wasiu Ayinde and the legion of others, Fuji was to transform from its lowly beginnings into a successful popular music brand, both in Lagos and around the world.
Dr. Sikiru mi Ayinde Ado, Barusati mi ba eni mo show. Agbaje lola dede go, ori e sale ti pada. Àyìnlá Kollington baba Latiga, kebe nkwa mi ba ni mo show.
In 1951, something happened. There was a cultural intervention that was brokered by a man called E.T. Mensah, Emmanuel Tete Mensah. He came from Accra in Ghana. And at that time, high life was very popular in Ghana. He brought it to Nigeria in 1951.
The origins of high life music has always been shrouded in some form of controversy or another. While some credit the beginnings to E.T. Mensah, some insist that high life existed in Nigeria before him.
High life music has been on, I think, before I was born. In the East, where the school brass band where I started, we do play high life music.
It started from Sierra Leone, from the slaves who returned from abroad.
It's peculiar to the west coast of Africa.
In actual fact, you cannot say high life originates from Nigeria or even Ghana.
E.T. Mensah came on doors and popularized it before. We at that time we were also playing high life. But he came with a bang and with a different, attacked it from a different dimension.
Well, the name High Life came from Ghana, you know. And in those days, for instance, because High Life was more popular in Ghana than Nigeria, it was not easy to go into the nightclub. The nightclubs were posh, and it was a place where the drinks were expensive, were exotic and all that. And if you had to go in, you had to be rich. You had to have about 2 and 6 pence to pay your fare. And you had to drink inside. You didn't just sit down with and you had to go with a partner. And so it was only the rich, only people who could afford it that went to the nightclubs. And as they went, the people who could not afford it, they were outside, listening to the music that filtered from the club. You know, they were all dancing outside. Some of them were even drinking outside. And as the rich people went in to dance, to enjoy themselves, the people cried, you dey enjoy yourself, you dey enjoy yourself, you dey enjoy high life. That's how high life got its name. Because it was the people, the poor people outside who could not get into the nightclubs that gave that name to the music. So that's how they name. So these names, as a matter of fact, have nothing to do with the structures of the music themselves.
Highlife music was an idea based on swing, African American swing music. And most of them had not studied. And so the idea of also trying to play blues music, which they had also, which had also been an influence for the African American sources in general as well, they also tried to imitate.
Well, Bobby Benson was the godfather of Nigerian music. And he was the first person to be influenced by this Ghanaian highlife music. And the result was Taxi Driver.
If you marry taxi driver, I don't care. If you marry lorry driver, I don't care. If you marry...
Bobby Benson is known for nurturing the second generation of Nigerian musicians. Although Eddie Okonta had already been in the Sami Akpabot aggregation, and we'll call this Sami Akpabot Sextet, together with a man that you all know, Oba Funsho Adeolu. He was also in that aggregation playing the saxophone. It was when Sam Akpabot traveled abroad to read music that Eddie Okonta featured into the Bobby Benson jam session, together with a man called Chief Bill Friday, a fine trumpeter who later formed the Ambassador Downbeats. He was also there with Zilonia. In fact, the hottest trumpeter in West Africa. He's dead now. He was there with a man called Jubril Issa. He was the Hausa man, very, very popular in West Africa.
Just before and during the Biafran Civil War that raged between 1967 and 1970, most musicians of Eastern Nigerian origin relocated from Lagos and returned to their respective towns and cities. Consequently, highlife ceased to be a major part of mainstream Nigerian music. A few performers kept the style alive, such as Victor Olaiya, Stephen Osita Osadebe, Oliver de Kock, Celestine Ukwu, Oriental brothers Victor Uwaifo and Orlando Owo, whose music was a fusion of juju and highlife.
One of the early hot spots in those days was Ambassador Hotel, Sabo Yaba. Now situated in Sabo Yaba. And it was very hot because that was where the Bobby Benson jam session took off. Later came a place called Kakadu Hotel, Alagomeji, also in Yaba. This was in the 1960 or so, where a man called Isi Arinze, he called his band Isi Arinze and his music. As a matter of fact, Isi Arinze had been playing at Empire Hotel, owned by Chief Kanu. And he came to Kakadu Hotel to establish a clientele that was very fashionable. And they called the place the magic spot in those days. There was Central Hotel that was a stone's throw from Kakadu Hotel. That was where a man called Eric Onuga. Eric Onuga was a trumpeter. He was playing there with a guy called Chike Emegokwe, who also later died. In fact, that was where Stephen Osadebe, that was where he perfected his art.
Everybody run, run, run. Everybody scatter, scatter.
Nigeria had just staggered out of her 30-month-long fratricidal war. Deep losses had been incurred on all sides. Severe injuries were still being nursed. healings were just about to begin. As if to assuage the heart-rending sorrows of the nation, oil, the black gold, sprouted out of the bowels of the earth in massive commercial quantities. And so an otherwise somber party came all alive and kicking. Nigeria became a huge dance hall.
Jankoku, the turning point for Fela in 1971. The song that shot him into fame and prominence. Well, this is the song that made it all for him.
Everywhere was Fela. All the radios we went, he one of those, you know. All the radios we went to, it was Fela. Because they themselves loved it.
Just as Fela was turning the heat of Afrobeat on an excited population, a rash of funk groups were emerging on the Lagos music scene. While there were bands like Clusters International, SALT, Salt, and Afro Collection, the biggest hit of that era was Blow.
Myself, Berkeley Jones, and Tunde Kuboye, who had joined us, just usually came around to jam with us at Batakoto. Then joined us, and we went to work with Ginger Baker, and that group was called Salt. We went on the tour of Europe, this included UK, Germany. We then went to United States, went to America, and at the end of this was when we came back to Nigeria, and BLO was formed.
I did Blow Chapter 1, The Native Daughter. That was the best. So they now decided they must go to Decca, Aphrodisia. He promised them to send them to England, to this and that. Anyway, they went to Aphrodisia.
Ofege, the unforgettable sensation of the mid-70s. Like a wildfire in Hamatan, these high school boys from St. Gregory's College, Lagos, took over the airwaves and dance floors across Nigeria.
That was the real beginning, real beginning of Nigerian groups becoming fully original.
It was a new thing anyway, and I knew it would work, but not as big as that.
The Ofege phenomenon you can never forget, because they were the first school band, that were released at that time. There were fantastic session men as well, who, but the Ofege phenomenon was something else.
It was a funky 80s in Nigeria. Record companies and labels like EMI, Decca, Sony, Premier, Polygram were still around and competing among themselves for the brightest stars, churning out albums after albums, scoring hits upon hits with stars like Onyeka Onwenu, whose first big hit was One Love. There was also the folksy Christy Essien, who had many successful album releases.
I need someone in my heart. I need someone in my life.
And there were lawyer-turned-preacher Chris Okotie, the falsetto Dizzy K. Falola, Mandy Ojubano, Alex Zito, and many others of that generation of musical talents that shone and gave pleasure to Lagosians and Nigerians around the world. The 1990s was a period of giddy ferment for indigenous music in Lagos. Not only were the major recording studios and labels very active in the development of new artists and styles, a few local entrepreneurs were catching the bug and joining in the party. So too were event organizers and show promoters like Dapo Adilegon, whose annual Lekki Sunsplash became the signature musical jamboree of the decade.
The Lekki Sunsplash was an accident of fortune. it wasn't born out of my depth of knowledge of the industry or my missionary zeal to effect any change or anything. It was more of my own, more of a result of my restlessness as a party organizer.
There's what to be done, America.
This period of musical explosion unveiled highly creative and original reggae music icons like Terracotta, Majek Fashek, Raz Kimono, Oritz Williki, The Mandators, Evie Edna Ogoli, Blackie, and others. Like a bolt from the blues, a milestone was reached when Shina Peters released his album titled Ace. It was a turning point in the evolution of popular music in Nigeria.
And I remember even Shina exercised, he had fears. I think the first 2 months or so, nothing happened, and everybody was kind of jittery, and that was Ace. And then we commenced the work on video, and we did the video. As soon as the video was released, Ace just blew.
This was where we go, so this streets where you will see, so all the people where we see, we love them, and the music that we play, we do it in our own. Silent, 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 do it in our own.
Music in Lagos today is like a marketplace of a million songs. While some are like the awesome symphony of 100 orchestras, others are like the senseless hootings of 1,000 Danfo drivers. It all began about a decade and a half ago.
Monica, 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 Monica. If Monica no kill me, I no go die again. This kind of love no be waiting up again. I carry Monica go for one party.
One particular event, I invited my Jebota friends, Obi, Olisa, all of them. And then I brought the boys from Egypt. And they performed there, and I said, guys, you guys should, bring some of the fathers and investments. And then they looked at it, and then they formed Red Songwriter. And signed Gina Pili, and Monica was released. And Monica was a breakthrough in terms of what music was at the time. Because that was rap music, which was never, I don't think anybody can say they did rap music before then. And I think that was where the independent label era started from.
Good luck, they say, only comes when preparation meets opportunity. It would therefore appear that the good luck of contemporary Nigerian music coincided with the emergence of deregulated communication services in Nigeria. With the advent of multinational companies like MTN, Airtel, Globacom and Etisalat, opportunities for musical concerts and other show promotions came along.
Today is probably the time that we've had the bigger impact in terms of the unified sound. Something that takes a beat from the Nigerian beats and incorporates a bit of the American influences. They call it hip hop. But in an exciting way, they are singing in our languages and incorporating some pidgin, incorporating some slangs and stuff. So in a way, I like that kind of compromise.
The way that they do me, cries is to pull me
but now ladies want me true.
Yeah, I remember coming to Lagos first time, seeing all these guys and being starstruck. Like, that's the Banj Anton Jazzy. That's Two-Face. I remember one time I was at the party with Two-Face. And I was at the party and Two-Face was there. There's no way. Because I was in the corner. Just this guy looking at this Two-Face and everybody was around him and I was like, my God, this is a superstar.
Lagos is just the perfect hub for music and for culture. I think Lagos, and because I've been fortunate enough to spend, about half of my life outside of the country, Lagos and New York share the same kind of spirit and the same kind of vibe and the same kind of energy. It's fast-paced, it's vibrant.
Jimmy Jad, LD the Don, Two-Face Idibia, Keke and D1, of course the Remedies, especially Idris, they are way up there in terms of the pioneers of this new movement. And there are a lot of elements, and that's why I said the Monica song. But it didn't carry over to being an enabling factor for the rest of the movement, as Two-Face did, as LD did.
There's people from all walks of life. There's people from all over the country, and it's just this epicenter or this hub for creativity, for go-getters. It's really just the spirit of Lagos. And it may be in the clubs in VI or, the Elegushi Beach scene, or, wherever you are on the mainland, I think, but that spirit is common in Lagos. And I think that just, Lagos is at the forefront of it. Lagos really, to me, is the heartbeat of Nigeria. That's where everything happens.
And it's really an exciting phenomenon. I'm so proud to have been a part of it.
While many of these young Nigerian musical stars are justifiably celebrated for bringing glory to fatherland, there is no shortage of criticisms levied against some others.
There's no quality control. It's how, sorry to say, some people, it's even how high they are at the time of making the music that determines how fast they put it out. They don't even sample second opinion.
There is fire on the mountain, and nobody seems to be on the run. Oh, there is fire on the mountain top, and no one is around.
If it was left to the Nigerian environment, maybe Asha would not have been a phenomenon.
This is your back, they make me they wonder. They wonder about what exactly is under.
Personally, I rock your body. I promise you go home, you won't tell daddy. I give it to you like you never had it. Screaming, church, like speaking Chinese.
In this marketplace of a million sounds, beauty coexists side by side with the beast.
I walked in my car, thinking about how we used to be forever.
The question of morality in music will always be there, and it's something that needs to be asked, and it's something that we need to continuously ask and try and make sure that we're not veering too far away from where we should be. But again, I say that to each his own.
As the airwaves of the world continue to be filled with the sounds of 1,000 minstrels, all made in Lagos, this city that hardly ever sleeps remains the hub of entertainment in Africa.
From the success stories that we have told of our Nigerian musicians from the very beginning, from those days of the 30s and 40s, from Bobby Benson to Ebenezer Obey to Sonny Ade to Ambrose Campbell to Fela Anikulapo Kuti. It is now obvious that Lagos is the place that prepares musicians for stardom.
We need to give back to the city. We're not preserving those moments in history. And that's what we need to do to make it a cultural center, not just a commercial hub.
In the city, this let's get it. Lagos, my Lagos.
So there is something in Lagos that always attracts you, and it will continue to attract people like us. Eko ni baje.
They wonder why we standing, wonder why we try. They try to kill our spirits, but our spirits know they die. We're a different kind of people, very happy people.